Hi guys, we are doing chapter 2, lesson 3, the Plains people. Our lesson is at the top, and then it says what to know. How did the geography and the climate of the plains affect the Native Americans? Here's our vocab, and then people, and then our places. As every lesson, it's going to start with the you are there. The sound of thunder wakes you, and you quickly sit up. But this isn't really thunder. You feel the ground rumbling beneath you. Only then do you know that that sound you are hearing is the pounding hooves of thousands of buffalo running from your tribe's hunters. You listen as your mother and your grandmother talk about the hunt. Soon there will be fresh meat to cook and dry. Grandmother has even promised to make you a new pair of moccasins from part of the buffalo hide. So then if we move this up, here's the picture. Fast fact, hundreds of years ago, the buffalo herds on the plains were so large that they sometimes blackened the horizon. And now we're going to talk about life on the plains. Who lived on the plains? What are the name of the groups? What's their natural resource? Just want to make sure I don't go too far. Okay. The Plains people lived on the interior plains between the Mississippi River and the Rocky Mountains. On fields of grass, they hunted buffalo, or American bison. After water, buffalo were the plains' most important natural resource. Millions of these animals once roamed this large region of dry prairie land in North America. So if we go back to our map to see what location we're talking about, okay, so this is where the eastern woodlands were, right? This is what they're talking about here, is they're saying between the Mississippi and, let me go back, the Mississippi River and the Rocky Mountains. Okay, so your Rocky Mountains run right through here. It's kind of in the crease of the book there. Okay, and here's your Mississippi River running alongside Illinois. So right in the middle, right here, is where the Plains people were at. So eastern woodland people were over here. Plains people are more in the middle of the United States, the flat plains, okay? Hunting buffalo. Imagine hunters coming upon a herd of buffalo, wearing animal skins. They sneak up on the buffalo. A signal is given. All the hunters yell, and the frightened buffalo begin to run. The hunters drive the herd towards a steep cliff. Unable to stop, the animals fall over the side and are killed. Quite simply, this is how they hunted buffalo. Buffalo are extremely heavy, extremely large, and they're actually a lot faster than you think they are, being in how big they are. So, and they have more of a tough skin or a hide on the outside that not always, their arrows couldn't always pierce them to kill them easily, like, you know, say a deer or something else that they would hunt in the woods. So they had to come up with another tactic or another strategy. And their strategy was basically to run up on the herd of buffaloes, yelling and screaming, kind of scare them a bit to get them running, okay, in a stampede. And they would get them to run towards a steep cliff. And because they were unable to stop in time, some of the buffalo would fall over the side and kill themselves. So then the tribe would run down around the bottom of the cliff. And then there you go. There's their dead buffalo, and there's food. Buffalo were the main source of food for all the Native American groups who lived on the plains. The meat could be eaten raw or cooked. It could also be mixed with fat and berries to make pemmican, a dried meat that could be stored. The buffalo gave the plains groups what they needed to make clothing, tools, utensils, and shelter. The people used almost every part of the buffalo. They made clothing and moccasins from the skins. They carried water in the bags made from stomachs. They twisted the hair into cords and made tools from the bones and the horns. Even the hooves of the buffalo were used to make glue. Nothing was wasted. So the natural resource for the people on the plains would be buffalo. And at the bottom of the page, they have a picture. It says diagram. This chart shows only a few of the many uses the Plains people had for buffalo. How did the Plains people use the buffalo to become better hunters? Then at the top you have Native American uses of buffalo. They used the horn for spoons and cups. They used the skin for clothing, shelter, shields, and drums. They used the bones for tools, arrowheads, and pipes. Now they're going to talk about the people and their homes. So their natural resources were buffalo. We know they're located in the middle of the United States on the plains. Now we're going to talk about who are these plains people. Farmers and hunters. While they all needed the buffalo and shared many customs, there were differences among the plains people. Their ways of life depended in part on where they lived. People of the Central Plains. Some plains groups lived in the eastern part of the plains or the Central Plains. The Iowa and the Missouri lived there, as did smaller groups of the Sioux, such as the Nakota. These groups were both hunters and gatherers and farmers. They gathered plants and hunted deer, elk, and buffalo. They farmed in the fertile valleys of the Missouri River and the Platte River. They grew beans, corn, and sunflowers. At times, groups traded some of their crops for other goods. These Central Plains people lived in villages made up of a large, round, earthen houses called lodges. Each lodge was home to several families. One lodge usually held 20 to 40 people. Each lodge was built of earth over a small pit. In the center was a fireplace under a hole in the roof for letting out smoke. On the northern prairies, the lodges were covered by sod, a layer of soil held together by the roots of the grass. About twice a year, the Central Plains tribes took part in a great buffalo hunt. To reach the distant plains where the buffalo lived, the people had to walk from their villages to the rivers. And then at the bottom it kind of starts to show you like teepees, which we haven't gone over yet. We've just talked about the lodges. But it has the travois, which is a sled that they would use. They attach to wild dogs to help them pull things. You have men and women here helping construct a teepee. Obviously, we haven't talked about those yet, but the plains people are going to be very nomadic, meaning they move a lot. So they needed some kind of home that they could take down and put up no matter where they moved to. So we're going to stop here. This would be lesson 3, part 1. We went over the beginning of the lesson. We went over life on the plains. We talked about where the plains people are at. Talked about their natural resource being buffalo, how they hunted the buffalo and used absolutely every part of the buffalo that they could. We also talked about the types of people that were in the plains and how the lodges they lived in using sod, and then how twice a year they would go on a buffalo hunt. That is the end of part 1 for lesson 3.